Hi, I'm Annabelle White, the New Zealand Women's Weekly food editor, and I've just got to show you something on film because you know what, no matter how much you write about it, you can't really show people unless you're with me in the kitchen. So look, with the benefit of the video, we are going to show you how to make the most amazing scones. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, they're rock hard, I never seem to get them right. Well, first thing, make sure you buy good quality flour. That's the first thing. And then you put, you can either use standard flour, or today I've got on hand 3 cups of self-raising flour. Throw that in to the bowl and add a little bit of salt. Now the whole recipe is on annabellewhite.com, and the recipe is also on the Women's Weekly files as well. Add a little bit of salt, and now this is where it starts getting interesting. So far you're thinking, yeah, well, what's she doing that's so fancy? Well, here we go. What I want you to do is, I've got about 75, 80 grams, don't worry too much, it doesn't matter if it's 75 or it's 80, about that, of ice cold butter. The secret is to make sure that you don't get your fingers into the grater, but it's worth it. Don't use the food processor for this, and don't even use your hands in this next technique, this next step. This is what you've got to do. Now, I've used self-raising flour, but I'm going to add just a little bit of extra baking powder because I want them to make sure they puff up. If you use standard flour, of course, you've got to use more baking powder. Now, with the knife, you mix this all around, okay? Now don't worry that it doesn't look as if it's fully incorporated. It doesn't matter. I can feel success. I can feel such success. Dried fruit, I love a bit of chopped apricots, but craisins and some raisins in there are nice. Throw them in, just dust them around. Again, notice no body contact with the mix, and the butter is ice cold. Now, your buttermilk. Buttermilk is a low-fat product. It's the old byproduct that was left over from the butter making process, but now they make it commercially. And what it's got in it is lactic acid. Now, lactic acid actually reacts to the baking powder, the baking soda, the rising agents in the mix, and makes things go poof, and it's marvellous stuff. So use buttermilk. Really thick. It's like a cross between sort of milk and yogurt. Now, you can do what they used to tell you at home ec classes, make the well in the centre, but I like to add a cup. Add a cup at first, but you might add another half a cup in a minute. Now, watch this. With a knife, don't use any machines, don't use your hands, mix this all up. The secret to making a great scone is to make a very wet scone. Now, you might think that's odd. That is very, very important. Now, that is not wet enough, but what I like to do is, again with the knife, move it around. So good being able to show you this. It's so hard to explain to people what exactly you mean by a wet dough. I mean, not so wet that it's going like this, but wet that you almost think you've gone too far. Makes a big difference. So the recipe calls for, if you're not a confident cook, then obviously maybe leave it there and put it out and go for it. But if you can handle it, if you can go that little bit over the edge, add half a cup more of buttermilk. It makes the most luscious. So not to confuse you, now there's 1.5 cups of buttermilk in the dough. Now see how much wetter it is? And you're thinking, oh, that's a walking disaster. What does that girl know about making scones? Well, no, I'm telling you, these are rock sensational, legendary scones. Now come on in again, Muffin, have a look at this. See this? See how wet it is, but you've managed with the knife to get all the bits and bobs from the bottom of the bowl. Now, this is where the fun starts. I love this. This is quite therapeutic, you know, making the old scones. By this stage, of course, make sure you've got the oven cranked up to about 220 degrees or 200 degrees fan bake. We found in the test kitchen that fan bake is the best for scones. Actually, fan bake is best for all things that are individual. So if you think of like little scones, little muffins, everything that's individual works better on the old fan bake. And I know some of our readers, unfortunately, all they've got is fan bake on their oven, so you need to be just a bit mindful of getting it good and hot, but not burning the scones. Now watch this. In actual fact, look at how wet this dough is. So do not fear not. It's not a disaster. It is not a disaster. Add a little bit more flour, and then watch this. Just pat. Do not roll, do not knead, just pat. Just pat so that it's a little bit more manageable for you to put on the baking tray. Look, I get so excited I can hardly get the words out. But look at that, I'm barely touching it. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sort of reclines over in the flour, like this. Now wash your hands. And here we go. This is the tray. Plonk it down here, and let me just show you how easy this is. with a sharper knife, look at this, keep the dough up like so, cut across like this. Don't worry about measuring anything here. Just cut it through like so. Because if you come the over and someone says, oh, her scone's a bit bigger than mine, just say, oh, take another one. Life is short. Now, the other thing is you can see how wet. Muffin, come back in again, darling. I want everyone to see how wet that is, because people would think that's a walking disaster when it comes to a scone, but the results are spectacular. Now, it's wet. Yes, it is wet. The wetter, the better with a scone. Well, obviously not too wet that it's all over the tray, but this is fantastic. So if it's too wet for you, if you're a little nervous, just add a bit more flour. She says on an empty packet, grab another. Marvellous, isn't it, for the old flour going in every direction? This is the moment when the phone rings. So make sure that you always have one hand covered for the dough and one hand that's really clean. Can you imagine now if the phone rang? Oh well, here we go. Onto the tray, like so. Life's too short to measure these out too much, but if you are a little nervous and you find it too wet, but within time you'll be fine with it being this wet, plonk them on the tray like that and into an incredible hot oven. Again, I'll repeat it, about 220 or 200, 210 fan bake. And you need them for about 15 minutes. You can tell they're lovely and golden. And in a few minutes, they'll be coming out. Here we go. While the scones are baking, let's clean up the bench. We've got 15 minutes. Those scones are smelling great. And just look at them, they're magnificent. Fear not, scones are just so easy. You're going to love these. Serve them with lashings of hot tea and be proud of your efforts. Well done.